Welcome to the ultimate SuperCoach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Hello and welcome. Yes, it's Tinlist Tuesday for round 24 on the Inside NRL podcast, proudly sponsored by our friends at the Standard Squeeze. I'm your host, the SuperCoach Mattrix, and I'm here to tackle all things NRL Supercoach for the round ahead. Flying solo today, so I'll need all your involvement. Get your questions in, help a brother out because, it's a lot of dribble from me here by myself. But flying solo today, I'll tackle the round 24 ins and outs, the trades to target this week, captains and vice captains, and of course, answering all your questions along the way. That'll make the time go a little bit better. And just mentioning, we are planning a Thursday night show this week as well. Braino's sick, and maybe I'll be solo again on Thursday. But yeah, interested to see if some of these guys actually get named once it gets closer to Thursday. Please support the show if you're watching on YouTube. Hit like and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or Google, please hit follow and leave us a review. Go the extra mile. Help us out. It sort of gets to that time of the year where it's only serious super coaches left, and appreciate everybody popping on. Our scores and ranks, I'll go through Braino's as well because he had prepared to be here. So he's made his notes here. So I'll go through. I know people follow his team, probably more so than mine, the way he's going at the moment. He got 1326 last week and moved down 300 spots to 2600th. And I scraped through 1271 and moved down 1400 spots to 19 and to 9,500. I've actually dropped 4,500 spots in the last 3 weeks. Maybe just trying to outthink the room, getting a bit spicy with my trades. I really had a goal to try and finish in that top 3,000. And I think if I went with the grain, I probably would have been, still in and around that 5,000th. Got a bit spicy with my Latrell Mitchell trade last week. Oh, Latrell Mitchell captain last week instead of Ponga. Yeah, maybe just trying to outthink the room there. I've got him played both at fullback, so I couldn't vice captain and captain. I thought Souths were going to go better, and I suppose we'll find out this week whether I double down on that against the Dragons this week. Standard Squeeze, they've been great to us. They are our major sponsor, and use promo code Insight15 and get 15% off for yourself. I know I use my 4-in-1 a couple times a day. Definitely use it for coffee in the morning in my coffee machine, and and for a can or a stubby in the evening. I've actually got water in it tonight because I've got a game of basketball at 8 o'clock, so I'll be all done by 8 if people thought I was doing any overtime. We have our Squeeze of the Week winner this week, and it goes out to Gary, coach of NQ Crime Rates with 1404. We've mentioned his name before, so he's definitely been here before. He is getting a Squeeze of the Week pack, which is a 4-in-1 or some of the squeezes. Tim, coach of the Lane Train, still leads the group with 42nd overall, closely followed by Chris, coach of Ball Brain, and Robert, coach of Widgie Grubs, in 73rd and 78th, respectively. We've got a couple blokes just outside of the top 100, and I'm hoping they can squeeze in. No pun intended. I really hope that we can get about 5 guys in the top 100 that have been involved with us here at Insight Fantasy Sports, and hopefully get Tim if he takes it out on the show at the end of the week, at the end of the year, actually. Sorry, it's a bit hard work doing this here by myself. Cowboys have the bye this week. That would have affected me more if I had Valentine home still. I suppose those guys with Drinkwater won't have him as an option this week. I've got Reece Robson sort of moving in Reed Marnie, and they've both been as average as each other. So that won't really bother me this week. But yeah, look, if you're running any of those Cowboys, they won't be playing this week. We have Sea Eagles versus Penrith at 4 Pines Park. Kepi has been in for Matt Lodge, who is out with the season for the season with an ACL. Burbo starting and Tuolagi at the bench. Look, not too many people are going to have Tuolagi. I know Burbo was a bit of a cheapie. I actually saw him sitting on the bench of some of the guys at Work's team. Look, those guys who brought Lodge in at his 400 price tag, very disappointed him there out for the season with his ACL. But for those who held Kepi or just didn't have the trades to get him out, pretty happy to see him in there. Penrith go 1-17, which worries me as a Broncos fan, hoping that the Panthers can stumble at some stage this year. Look, realistically, they are just cruising through. And Cleary is a genuine vice captain option this week. Penrith are very, very short favourites this week. Oh, large favourites, I suppose. They're paying like $1.05 and it's $8.15 for the Sea Eagles. Not that I'm promoting gambling. I'm just trying to say how big the margin, which is why I think Cleary is a pretty clear-cut vice captain. I'm not sure if I'll do it. There are a few options. A lot of these top-end teams are playing some of the lower teams. And look, Sea Eagles aren't the biggest pushover in the world. So we'll have a look at the other games as well. Obviously, you're going to have Cleary and Nico, and that's an excellent segue into the Sharks versus the Titans. Mulatalo has been named. Hazelton has dropped out. Hiroti, after a great game last week, has been dropped. He's 18th man, so I suppose he's been rewarded in a little way. Gold Coast Titans, Tino's back, which is massive news, and especially with Mo Fodawaker out, Tino might even get more of a run than usual if we expected that. The guy could play 80 minutes realistically. Brimson's rested. Look, it's hard to see if Titans lose this week. I think that they are properly out of contention. And I think Brimson might not see the rest of the year, which is, I've moved off after being extremely high on him. This is one of the weeks that I would have played him. Extremely disappointing for owners. Hopefully we can get him at a bit of a discount. I might even be looking at him next year as well. Jolliffe is back from his broken hand. And Nico's another vice captain option. So this is the 6:00 game on Friday night. So Sea Eagles and Penrith will have been finished by now. Look, it's disappointing that you have to choose between Cleary and Nico. The Titans played pretty well last week. With 12, they played really well against the Warriors. I'm not sure if Warriors just come back with a little bit of rust, but Titans look good. I am probably leaning towards Cleary as a vice captain against the Sea Eagles versus Nico as a captain against the Titans. Titans just showed a little bit last week, and realistically watching them, I kind of wish that they could get their shit together one year. Maybe Desi Hasler's the answer. It'd be nice to see him play finals footy at some stage. Mr. Callio, appreciate you popping on again. For audio listeners, Mr. Callio has asked, would I play Garrick this week? So the plan actually for me was to sit Alex Johnson or Ruben Garrick to play Munro. Munro hasn't been named because I just really like that right-hand side with Campbell Graham and Munro after looking at Supercoach Gun's try-map. And I am forced to play Garrick this week with Munro not being named. Look, hopefully he can be okay, but when we've seen some of these scores, like look at Nico's score against the Panthers. If I had any way out, I am running Willie Army, Nickel Clockstad, which we'll chat about a bit later after his HIA concerns last week, and Tyrone Munro on the bench. So realistically, I've been forced to play people like Ruben Garrick, even though they don't have the best matchup. It's hard to know. Like with Mulatalo, look, they've said that he's back on deck. Realistically, all we can take is these NRL team list Tuesday. That's what we're here to analyze. They have said Mulatalo's back. He'll have to pass all his tests this week, and I suppose that's why Hiroti has been named 18th man. Realistically, we'll just be waiting and seeing, I suppose, till it's 24 hours out. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit of an idea by the time we do our Thursday show this week. Going to the Broncos versus the Eels on Friday night at 8 p.m. I will probably be there, beer in hand. $12 for a 3.5. I'm pretty excited for this one because the Eels have been in. They look all right. So they have named Maddo on the bench and Davey starting. Look, not real good for owners. Maddo scored really well starting on the edge last week. Hands is back into the team. Dejan Arce has been named at centre. Simonson, Wynn, and of course, all eyes will be on Dillbags again this week. Look, if you've got the trades, I still think Cody Walker and Cam Munster will come good, even though they had a really bad week last week. I think it was 50 and 48, respectively. I expect with Dillbags' bye that they will both outscore Dillbags for the rest of the year. Really excited again as a Broncos fan to see Adam Reynolds back, Hetherington back, and Jordan Ricky back. I have been really enjoying seeing Piakura get the extra minutes. Dean Mariner has been named on the wing, sort of expecting this after Arthurs went down with a HIA last week. Willison and Jensen out. Really enjoyed seeing Xavier Willison get some extra minutes through this period because of injury, and I think he's got a bright future ahead. Not really seeing any captain, vice captain options here. Look, maybe. Look, I don't think Gutho or Reece Walsh, which are the obvious ones, are captain options. I still would play them both, but we just saw Scott Drinkwater get a 67. Definitely wouldn't be captaining Gutho this week. Souths versus Dragons. Burgess has been suspended for 3 games, so Shaq Mitchell's come in at prop. Jai Arrow's named, which I'm a bit surprised. He was helped off with a massive limp last week. Host, and back spasms, I believe. Look, he had to be helped off and really struggling there. Host has been named at the edge. And in what really hurts, Munro's named on the extended bench and Milne has been named on the wing. When I did have a look at the try map, that side, I was going to say Munro's side just then, but I suppose Milne's side, after it's been named, Milne's side has let in basically the most amount of tries. It's like 19 tries this year. It's been ridiculous. Honestly, massive pod play. If you're playing draft, maybe get Tane Milne in this week. That could be an absolute ripper of a play. With St. George, Molo's out. Ben Murdoch-Masilla's at lock. Toby Couchman name on the bench. Sully returns from a calf injury. Lomax is out with his shoulder injury. And Jack Bird, surprise, surprise, after playing last week, has been named out. I see those questions in the chat. And I'll just wait till I get to those, to that game, Mark, and I will go through it because that is actually my next game that I'm going through, which is the Tigers versus the Warriors. I suppose when we talk about the Warriors playing downhill, this is an exceptional matchup for them. SJ playing would be my captain option if I owned him. Again, I'm deciding between Nico and Cleary. Not super disappointed. Believe I've made the right play with the amount of trades I've had left. But I tell you what, SJ against the Tigers, even though the Tigers look pretty good, Jack Whiten got himself in a bit of trouble, mentioning that the refs were trying to get the Tigers back into the game. But the Tigers looked pretty good last week, and the Warriors were underwhelming. But realistically, I think SJ will score very well against the Tigers. Stefano and Sean Bloor are back for the Tigers. Charlie Staines is out with a hammy injury. Junior Tupu is named on the wing. Kapoa has been named at centre, and 12 moved back to the bench with Stefano and Bloor coming back in. Tuapiki is fullback for HIA. We got to see that a little bit last week. Now, Mark in the chat has asked what my thoughts are on CNK. I reckon he could get a couple weeks at least with the history, especially with earlier on in the year, he did have those HIA troubles, which has actually turned him into a little bit of a pod. So I'm not going to be disappointed with that. I've had him since then. Look, we've got to take the good with the bad. I probably would have vice-captained him this week against the Tigers, or maybe even straight seed him after vice-captaining Nico or Cleary. Look, it's really disappointing. I'll go through it a little bit in my trades, but realistically, I think if I could get him out and I had 3 or more trades, I would be trading C&K out. I'm just worried that he misses 2 weeks, not just the 1 week. Look, disappointing. Not a rage trade after he scored 15 last week. Last week, it was the play to get C&K into your team. I know a lot of people did it. It's disappointing when somebody goes down, but he was at 1 ppm when he went down. I captained him in draft, vice captained him in classic. Just really disappointing. But you have to consider that you might not see him for 2 weeks. Mason Miller, thanks for popping on again, mate, has asked whether his last reserve should be Hudson Young, Tohu Harris, or Ruben Garrick. He is playing Billy Smith over Garrick due to the Penrith matchup. I think I would be finding a spot for Tohu Harris this week. 100%. Tohu was great last week. I know he scored a try for his 78. Even if he didn't, what's that? In and around late 50s. I'm happy to play Tohu Harris every week with the Warriors matchups going in. Here's that ball playing forward and look for him to get involved, especially like C&K has been a phenomenal ball player for them as well. Maybe Tohu gets more involved. We definitely saw it last week. Let's head across to the Roosters versus the Dolphins. And Mason mentioned that he is playing Billy Smith over Ruben Garrick due to the Penrith matchup. When you have a look at how Nico scored against Penrith the other week with just 22, I know he's not a fullback, but it's hard to gauge Will Kennedy's score considering he got knocked out and injured in that game. Realistically, you could take a gamble on Billy Smith and it could pay big dividends. I still think Rube's floor is in and around that 45. Look, even on a bad game, I think he's going to get 50. Realistically, chase that upside with Billy Smith. I've been pigeonholed into playing Garrick this week, so it's what I've got to do. Roosters are playing the Dolphins. Dolphins have been pretty ordinary, realistically. Dylan Napa is back in for Nathan Brown. Didn't expect to see him play this year. There's another big red in town. Nathan Brown is out, obviously, after scoring the worst score in Supercoach history. Dolphins, Ray Stone's back. Herman SA after getting a bit of a run, has 18th man. I actually hate Hammer in the centers and Nicarima at fullback, but I suppose they are just finding a way to get all their best players on the park there. The next game we have Storm versus the Raiders. Great news for Melbourne. Hughes and Coates return. Smith is in the reserves. The rest is 1 to 17. Really excited for my draft teams to start seeing Jerome Hughes back in. And I actually am pretty excited for Coates to be back as well. I need Munster to go really well. Canberra have been ordinary. So let's just see Melbourne come back and hopefully put on some big points. A lot of us have loaded up due to the fact honestly, a lot of us has loaded up due to this draw. Haven't quite seen it yet from Melbourne, but really hoping that they can, pull out some big scores for their big players. I'm actually going to play Nick Meaney this week. I know I was going to talk about it in sit versus start, but been forced to play Nick Meaney against Canberra. Look, what else could go wrong with my season, realistically, if you have a look at my last 3 weeks? Ethan Strange debuts at centre. Seb Chris went off with hamstring. He is out for the season, which is disappointing. Seb Chris was having a fantastic year. Of course, he was keeping Savage out. He was keeping Rapana from fullback, except for the last game. Really disappointing for Seb Chris. And honestly, I think disappointing for Canberra. I think that they really needed him. Let's have a look to see if we have any questions. Mason Miller is worried about Tohu because Webster said they don't need Tohu to play 80. With Tigers matchup, they may not need him. Scary. I think being the leader out there, I think that and the captain, I think that he'll still be out there for 55 minutes, and that's enough for me. Honestly, that's enough with Tohu. All he needs to do is jag one attacking stat. He's got 60 or 70 and, ride off into the sunset. I'll still be playing Tohu. Dylan Napa, absolutely bonkers, Mr. Callio. Did not expect that this week. Mark is mentioning that he thinks Katoa, I believe that's Ellie Katoa, obviously with Hughes being back, not Isaiah Katoa. Don't get those mixed up. But Ellie Katoa is a sneaky pod. You do get him at a bit of a discount too. I would be playing Katoa if I owned him, especially with this matchup. Mr. Callio has asked whether Ryan Pappenhausen will get a run later this year. I did get to watch a bit of that Falcons game. Not quite ready yet. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him come off the bench next week. It is going to depend how Nick Meaney goes this week. I'm hoping Nick Meaney shows out and Pappenhausen can just go sit in reserve grade for a little bit longer. But I think that we might see Ryan Pappenhausen be named on the bench or at least the extended bench next week. Will Shaw in the comments, he said he can bench Garrick and CNK this week. Who would I hold / trade for the run home? Whew. Look, honestly, I see Brain in the comments, and he really likes Dane Gagai. If I could get CNK to To'o or via Jules, if I could get James Tedesco in, I 100% would be doing that. Really like James Tedesco. If you have a look at the Roosters run home, it's actually a beautiful run home. I really like Tedesco if you can do it via Jules. I really like To'o if you have the cash. I've found that with the amount of cash that CNK and Garrick have dropped in the last couple of weeks, I can't afford either, which is disappointing. But if you can do it, if you've got a couple trades, do it. I'm going to be holding Garrick because if you have a look the last 2 weeks, he plays 2 bottom 4 teams, and Garrick can take advantage of that. We've seen him score in the 160s this year. Look, I wouldn't be surprised to see it again this year. I've been burnt by captaining him just 2 weeks ago. I probably won't be captaining him even in those matchups. But if you have some ground to make up, that could be a pod play. Mick has asked who to bring in for CNK. Brain really likes Gagai or Dallin Wateni-Zalesniak. I like To'o if you can afford it, and Teddy if you can do it via Jules. So there's 4 options there for you, Mick. Friend and host of the AFL show who did a fantastic job solo on Sunday. We have the Knights versus the Bulldogs in the last game. Bradman Best is out, a big blow. Tuala's in, and the Bulldogs have Luke Thompson back. Harrison Edwards drops out. I'm not sure anybody's holding, or if you're holding Edwards, you're not playing him or nuffing him out just yet. Luke Thompson back. Hopefully he can come back and be a guy that we look to get in hopefully next year. Luke Thompson was somebody that I was a bit high on coming into the year. And it's disappointing that we didn't get to see him. He hurt himself at training, but he is back. And I suppose we'll see how Gus's team fares here. The Knights have been absolute fire, and it would be extremely hard not to at least have... Like, obviously, you're not going to vice captain him. It's the last game. It's hard not to captain Ponga. I would really like, and maybe this just heads into my captains and vice captains. I nearly want to double down on captaining Latrell and just take the big loss this year. But with Ponga playing the Bulldogs, even with Best out, I think that it's extremely hard to not captain Ponga. I made the mistake last week, and cost me 100 points. Probably cost me it probably cost me 1,500 spots, really, those 100 points. I wasn't having that bad of a week, having a few tons in there and Fafita's 94. But realistically, I am going to be vice captaining Nico Cleary. Nico Cleary. Obviously, I'm thinking of Nico Hines. Geez, I wish I had a bit of Nico Hindsight and could get that one back. I am going to be captaining Nathan Cleary, reserving Nico and captaining Ponga. The other guys I would be looking at is Latrell Mitchell against the St. George Illawarra Dragons, Joey Manu against the Dolphins. I am warded off. I am scared of Cody Walker and Cameron Munster as a captain option after a couple of 50s the last couple of weeks. David Fafita seems to be back to his best, but I just like the upside of these fullbacks. So I'm going to vice captain Nathan Cleary, and I'm going to captain Kalen Ponga. Let me know who you are thinking of captaining in the comments. Let me have a bit of a look. Mark's thinking about bringing in Dom Young outside Gagai and getting the pies. I do really like Dom Young. I've got him in draft. That's where I've got my stocks in Dom Young. It's just really hard to bring him off. They do love Marju's side, and that's why Marju is like a 750K player. Look, yeah, Dom Young could be in the list, but maybe you're trying to outthink the room. I would probably just get Gagai instead of Dom Young. Michael Griffiths, thanks for popping on. Who's our trade target in this round? He's got a bit of cash to spend and thinking Hudson Tatino or Ronaldo Mulatalo. With the injury cloud over Ronaldo, I think Tino, these last 3 weeks, they're not going to shut him down. They're going to be looking to sell tickets. They're going to be looking to play Tino as much as possible. Just remember, he could be playing for a $1.2 million contract as well. Realistically, I would be bringing in Tino. I love the pot of Tino. I wish I had him in my team. If you can go Hudson to Tino, I really like that, Michael. I'm not sure if you've got Ronaldo Mulatalo, but again, you could bring in Brian Toto if you don't have him, or via Jules if you could bring in Tedesco. That'd be really good as well. Garrick over Billy Smith is what his heart says. Look, yeah, he could do. I think that Billy Smith might have the bigger upside this week against the Panthers. I don't expect the Sea Eagles to score well, even though their back's against the wall and they really need to win it. I think that you're a better chance of getting a ton with Billy Smith, but you're also a better chance of getting a 25. Which trade is better? We have Mr. Callio popping on, and he is going to vice captain Hines or Manu. I really like the Manu vice captain as well. Captain Ponga, Trell, or Grant. I do really like it. I just think if I had the balls, I would double down on Latrell. I would just hate if after the good season I was having, being in the top 5,000 just 3 weeks ago, if I fell out to be like 12,000th. I know that there's not that much difference between finishing 7 or 8,000th and finishing 13,000th. Maybe I should just be having a punt, but I'm just going to find it extremely hard not to put the C on Ponga. I expect him to be like 70% in the top 1% captained as well. So if you do need to make that ground up, yeah, Latrell is probably, because people are going to be warded off Latrell a little bit after back-to-back 70s. I know that's madness to say, but he does have back-to-back 70s. Yeah, you could see a lot of people fading him. And if he has one of those big scores that we know he's capable of, you could make up a lot of ground. Look, I've got the notes here for Braino. He's going to be sitting Reed Marnie, Christian Welch, Hudson Young in that hard matchup, which we have spoke about, Valence, Tavare, and Garrick versus Penrith. That means he has to start Hammer, Mulatalo, Olakuatu, and Max King. Doesn't want to play Hammer at center, but has to due to the fact that Munro. has been named out, and I think a lot of us were looking at loading in up on Munro and putting him in. If he does get named late, he'll be bringing that in, and Hammer will be sitting. This week, I am going to be sitting Hudson Young, Max King, and Christian Welch. Due to the fact I have Reece Robson, I am actually Reece Robson. I'm forced to play Reed Marnie. I'm playing IPAP this week. I'm playing IPAP instead of Hudson Young. I think that he's been getting those 60s. He got 70 the other week. I'm going to play Garrick. If Munro gets named late, I might even sit Meany if Munro gets named late. Garrick will have played by then. I have to play Garrick. I'm going to have to do it. If we have a look at some trade thoughts, Nathan won't be trading this week. He's going to assess the C&K situation. If he's named next week, great. If he isn't, he's going to look to trade him. If he had 5 trades less, he would be doing everything in his power to get To'o, Gagai, or Tino in this week. Just be very apprehensive to sell Garrick this week, with the final 2 weeks being against Manly against the Bulldogs and the West Tigers. I would have pulled the trigger on C&K to trade out for Teddy or To'o. I don't think that he'll be back for 2 weeks with that HIA history. And with, I suppose, them have shoring up some spots there with their run. I still expect them to win most of their games, even with C&K out. I would pull the trigger on C&K to Teddy or To'o if I could afford it, even with only having 2 trades left, which could cost me poorly in round 27. But at the stage, like where I am right now, I would pull the trigger on that. And I am nearly talking myself live into doubling down. I think that I might captain Latrell Mitchell instead of Kalen Ponga again. I'm going to double down. Follow me on Twitter. I am going to write how disappointed I am. I'll let you know on the Thursday show if I have pussied out of it. But realistically, I think the upside of Latrell, where I'm sitting at 9,000th. Look, if I drop spots, I drop spots. I got Latrell in because I thought that he was a genuine captain option these last weeks that he's playing. I am going to captain Latrell Mitchell at this stage. Mark is looking at vice captaining Hines and captaining Munster. He's looking to find some pods, so can't go the same. Thinking Munster at home against the Raiders. It could be a massive one, and this is one that I did want Munster for. Being burnt the last couple of weeks, since I've brought him in, it's just a 50 and a 60. Of course, we've got Jerome back. Of course, we've got Coates back. I think that he'll score really well, but he won't be getting an armband for me this week, Mark. And I suppose that's what you're looking for with your pods, to go against the grain. I'm not going to do it. I'm sure a lot of other people are thinking they're not going to do it, and that's why you're doing it. Mason asking if Dylan Edwards is a good play. He scored 4 tries against Manly, but has been very ordinary. I believe he's got a rib injury. I would not be playing Dylan Edwards this week. Not at all. I just don't think they've got anyone else to play there. He's playing through. That is the one question mark that Penrith has at the moment. And secretly, I'm hoping that gets a little bit worse. Because I would love the Broncos to win. Sounds like I'm playing safe this week. Hopefully the Bears change their mind. I am going to captain Latrell. Look, let's do it. I am not on the Bears today because I've still got a basketball game within the hour. I'll be on the floor in an hour. And look, realistically, I'll be having a few beers later on. I have the captain on Latrell now. Double down. Let's do it. Terry King, thanks for popping on. Have appreciated you popping on the last couple of weeks, mate. His question is who to play between Jesse Ramian and Ruben Garrick. So give me a second. This is an extremely tough one. I'm going to have a look at the try map live here. So apologies. It's getting towards the end of the podcast anyway. So I'm willing to muck around here a bit for you, mate. We have an early one with the try map. And the Sharks are playing the Titans. Sorry, this makes for terrible listening. And I'm going to play Ruben Garrick instead of Jesse Ramian. I don't love the Ruben Garrick trade this week, but realistically, at both their center spots, they don't really let in that many tries. The Titans, they let him in on the wings. Look, he might find himself with some try assists there, but he's not looking like he's going to get the tries there, which is what you basically want from Ramian. I would play Ruben Garrick because I think Ramian, there's a better chance of getting a 20. If I was playing it safe, I would go with Ramian. Will Shaw, thanks for popping on, has sold Manu for C&K and benched Asako. He lost his head-to-head by 20 points. Tale of too many trades coming back to bite me. Yeah, that's brutal. Who was to know that Asako, after however many ordinary weeks that he's had come back and scored as many tries as he had? Look, if you can take anything from it, he has been kicking bad. He did actually give up the kicking tee towards the end of last game. And realistically, we might see another bad one from Asako. Michael is asking, is Dylan Wateni-Zalesniak a good pod captain option? With Dallin, just in case things don't go that way, and I know that it's Sean Johnson's side, I would be finding a way and having a look at where he is in the week. I would be finding a way to put a vice captain on him and putting a captain on somebody like Latrell or Kalen Ponga later on in the week. I know it means foregoing Cleary and foregoing Nico, but I think vice captaining Dallin Wateni-Zalesniak would be a great pod option. I'm sure your AEs at this stage aren't that bad. You'd probably find a way to get him out. Terry King is asking whether he should upgrade Ramian or Garrick. I'm just going to have a look at Jesse Ramian's price. I haven't looked at him for a little while. At 550K, again, really like somebody like To'o. Really like Joey Manu. If you could get there, that's 100K. I think it might be too much for stretch to go To'o. If you're one of those blokes that are playing like an Asako or C&K or somebody like that at fullback, and you could find a way to get Teddy in there. I know I've mentioned it 100 times. I still like Latrell at 719K. Look, if you're not playing Jesse Ramian, I know at 550K, it's not too scary. But yeah, Joey Manu, I wouldn't be bringing in Garrick. I like To'o. Brano likes Dane Gagai. I really like that as well. Maybe Dane Gagai could be the pod choice with their run home. Ramian to Dane Gagai. Whew. All right. Mr. Callio is asking if I would play IPAP over Horsburgh. That's spicy. I think Big Red gets his minutes regardless, even though the Raiders haven't been playing that well. I'm not expecting too many attacking stats this week, but I never expect that many attacking stats from IPAP either. Look, yes, I would play IPAP over Horsburgh given the option. So there you go, Mr. Callio. A straight answer from me for once. All right, guys, just seeing if there's any other questions coming in. I will be going. Please follow me on Twitter at SC_Mattrix. I'll be at the Broncos game this week. If you want to see some beer selfies, follow me there. We are planning a Thursday show. We are, of course, ramping up our NBA content. I'll be going through with Mick Dell and doing Boston. And what else am I doing? The Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's go Mike Conley on that team. And, of course, Rob and Mick continue on with our AFL content to finish the end of the year. Terry King, thanks, mate. You are going to bring in Gagai. Bring in Gagai for Jesse Ramian. I just don't think you'll be playing Jesse Ramian every week. Bring in Gagai. You are listening to Insight Fantasy Sports NRL. Thanks, guys.